Hello, my dear listener, and welcome back to Code Your English, the channel where we explore ideas that help you grow, not just as an English learner, but as a human being. I'm really glad you're here. Today, we're diving into a topic that feels more important now than ever: focusing on one thing at a time. Sounds simple, right? But in today's world, it's actually becoming harder and harder to do. Think about it. How often do you find yourself doing several things at once? Maybe you're studying English while checking your phone, replying to a message, and listening to music in the background. Or maybe you're working on a task for your job, but you keep jumping between emails, social media, and 5 open tabs on your browser. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. This kind of multitasking is everywhere. It's become a habit for many of us, and honestly, it can feel productive. We feel busy. But here's the truth: just because you're busy doesn't mean you're doing meaningful work. In this episode, we're going to talk about why multitasking might be hurting more than helping. We'll look at how it affects your brain, your energy, and even your confidence. I'll introduce you to the idea of deep work, a way of working with full focus, without distractions. It's powerful, it's challenging, and it's one of the most effective ways to learn, grow, and actually enjoy what you're doing. Now, don't worry. This isn't going to be a lecture. We're going to keep it real. I'll share some examples, maybe even a few personal stories, and give you space to reflect. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. We'll also connect this topic to your English learning journey, because yes, even the way you study languages can be affected by multitasking, and not in a good way. Here's a question to think about as we go through this episode. When was the last time you gave one thing your full attention? No distractions, no switching, just you and the task in front of you. Hard to remember, isn't it? That's okay. You're not alone. And the good news is, you can train your brain to focus again. So, grab a coffee, take a deep breath, and let's slow down together. It's time to stop trying to do everything at once and start focusing on what really matters. Let's get into it. What is deep work, really? So let's talk about this thing called deep work. You might have heard the phrase before, especially if you follow productivity books or study techniques. But what does it actually mean? In simple words, deep work is when you give your full attention to one task, just one, and you do it with focus, purpose, and no distractions. It's the opposite of working with half your brain while the other half is thinking about something else. When you're doing deep work, you're not checking your phone every 5 minutes. You're not switching between 10 tabs on your laptop. You're fully there, with your mind, your energy, and your time. Deep work is usually quiet. It's not dramatic. It's not flashy. And honestly, it's not easy, especially in a world full of notifications, alerts, and constant noise. But this kind of focused work is where real progress happens. It's where you grow. It's where you actually learn. Now, let's compare that with something called shallow work. Shallow work is everything that feels like work, but doesn't really require deep thinking. It's answering emails. It's scrolling through social media while pretending to study. It's quickly replying to messages, moving files, or attending meetings where you're half listening. These tasks can keep you busy all day, but they don't help you grow. They don't push your brain. They don't take you closer to your goals. They're like fast food, easy to consume, but not always good for you in the long run. Here's the thing. Many people believe that multitasking, doing several things at once, is the smart way to get more done. You've probably heard people say, "I'm great at multitasking," or "I'm more productive when I do many things at once." But science says the opposite. Research shows that our brains can't really focus on two complex things at the same time. What we actually do is switch, very quickly, between tasks. And every time we switch, we lose a bit of focus, a bit of energy. It's called a switching cost. You might not notice it right away, but it adds up. By the end of the day, you feel tired, distracted, and frustrated. You were busy, but not effective. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you're trying to write an email in English. While writing, you get a notification on your phone, so you check it. Then you remember you wanted to look something up on Google. You open a new tab, get distracted, and forget what you were writing in the first place. Now, the task that should have taken 10 minutes ends up taking 30. Sound familiar? Multitasking can also hurt the quality of your work. When your attention is divided, you make more mistakes. You miss details. And here's something important. You also feel less proud of your work because you know deep down you didn't give it your best. So, why do we keep multitasking if it doesn't work? Well, part of the reason is that busyness feels good. It gives us the feeling that we're being productive. We feel like we're doing a lot, even if nothing is actually finished. Also, it's hard to sit with just one task. It can feel boring or uncomfortable. Deep work often starts slow. There's resistance. You might want to escape. But if you stay with it, if you push through that first 10 or 15 minutes, you start to get into a rhythm. You feel more connected to what you're doing. You might even start to enjoy it. This state is sometimes called flow. It's when time almost disappears, and you're completely focused on what's in front of you. You stop thinking about your to-do list or what you're going to eat for lunch. Your brain is just present. And the work you do in this state? It's usually your best work. Here's a question for you to think about. When was the last time you were in that state of flow? When you were doing something, maybe writing, reading, creating, or even practicing English, and you lost track of time because you were so into it. That's deep work, and that's the place where real learning and real achievement happen. The truth is, deep work is not just for geniuses or creative people. It's not only for writers or coders or artists. It's for everyone. You don't need expensive tools or a perfect environment. What you need is the intention to focus and the willingness to say no to distractions, even if it's just for 30 minutes a day. So, as we continue this episode, I want you to start thinking about your own habits. How often are you really present with your work or with your learning? How much time do you spend switching, scrolling, jumping from task to task? You don't have to change everything overnight. But noticing these patterns is the first step. Because once you understand what deep work is and how it feels, you'll start to want more of it. You'll start to protect your time and energy in a different way. And that's where the magic begins. The illusion of multitasking. Let's talk honestly about something that most of us do every day, often without even realizing it. I'm talking about multitasking, doing 2 or 3 things at the same time. Maybe you're doing it right now. Listening to this podcast while cooking, sending a message, or scrolling through your phone. And hey, no judgment. We've all done it. In fact, we live in a world that rewards multitasking. People say things like, "I'm great at multitasking," as if it's a superpower. But is it really helping us? Let's imagine a common situation. You sit down to study English. You open your notebook or your laptop. You start reading something, maybe doing a bit of writing or listening practice. Then, ping, a notification pops up on your phone. You quickly check it. Just a second, right? Then maybe you reply to a message, or scroll for a minute. Then you come back to your English task. But suddenly you feel less focused. You've forgotten where you were. You reread the same sentence again. You start to feel tired, even a bit annoyed. That's the hidden cost of multitasking. It's not just about losing time. It's about losing mental energy. There's something called cognitive switching cost. It's a fancy term, but the idea is simple. Every time your brain switches from one task to another, it needs time to refocus. Even if it's just a short interruption, your brain has to restart the original task. You might think, oh, it's just 5 seconds, but those seconds add up. And they don't just take time, they drain your attention and slow you down. Your mind becomes tired more quickly, even if you haven't worked for long. Multitasking also affects the quality of your work. When your brain is jumping between tasks, it's harder to think clearly. You make more mistakes. You miss small details. You forget things. That email you wrote while replying to a text? It probably has more errors than usual. That English sentence you were writing while watching a video? It might not be your best grammar. When you multitask, your brain isn't fully present in any one activity, and that means your performance goes down. What's worse is that multitasking feels productive, even when it's not. That's the illusion. You feel busy, like you're doing so much. But in reality, you're often moving slowly through many tasks without finishing any of them properly. It's like walking in circles. You're moving, but you're not really going anywhere. Now, let's talk about something that many people don't connect with multitasking, but they should. Stress. When your brain is constantly switching between things, it doesn't get a break. You may feel mentally on all the time, always connected, always reacting, always catching up. Over time, this leads to mental fatigue, stress, and even burnout. Burnout is when your mind and body feel completely tired, like you have no motivation left. It's not just physical, it's emotional and mental. And unfortunately, it's becoming more and more common. Multitasking also affects your mood. When your brain is split between different tasks, it becomes harder to enjoy any of them. You feel distracted, frustrated, or overwhelmed. You may even feel guilty, like you're not doing enough, even though you've been busy all day. That's the emotional trap of multitasking. It doesn't just waste time, it makes you feel worse about how you're using it. Let me ask you this. Have you ever reached the end of a busy day and thought, what did I even get done today? That feeling often comes from shallow work and multitasking. You were active, but you weren't focused. Your day was full, but your results were thin. And that can lead to even more stress, because now you feel like you need to work even harder tomorrow. It's a cycle that's hard to break. So what's the solution? It starts with awareness. When you catch yourself multitasking, pause. Ask yourself, is this really helping me? Or is it just keeping me busy? Try doing one thing, just one, for a short period of time. 10 minutes, 15. No phone, no distractions. Just you and your task. You might be surprised at how good it feels. You might even get more done in less time, because your brain isn't fighting for focus. Remember, your attention is one of your most valuable resources. Where you put it matters. If you keep giving small pieces of it to everything, you'll never give your full attention to anything. But if you learn to focus, even for short periods, your work becomes deeper. Your learning becomes stronger. And your stress levels? They go down. Because your brain finally gets the space to do what it does best. One thing at a time. A culture of busy, but not productive. Let's take a moment to talk about something we see all around us, maybe even in ourselves. Have you noticed how, in today's world, being busy has become almost like a badge of honor? It's something people say with pride. You hear it everywhere. How are you? Oh, busy. How's work? So busy. It's like the busier we are, the more valuable we feel. It's as if staying busy means we must be important, productive, or successful. But is that really true? The problem is that we often confuse being busy with being productive. They are not the same. Being busy means you're doing a lot of things. You're moving, you're active. But being productive means you're doing the right things. Things that actually move you forward, that help you learn, grow, or reach a goal. There's a big difference. Let's think about a normal day. Maybe you answer emails, scroll through your phone, jump between tasks, and say yes to everything. You feel tired by the end of the day, maybe even exhausted. But then you ask yourself, what did I actually finish today? And sometimes the answer is, not much. That's because motion isn't the same as progress. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're going anywhere. It's like running on a treadmill. You're moving a lot, but you're staying in the same place. Many of us fall into this trap without realizing it. We keep filling our schedules with tasks, meetings, messages, notifications, just to feel like we're doing something. But deep down, we might be avoiding the work that really matters. Why? Because that kind of work, deep work, is harder. It's more uncomfortable. It requires focus, patience, and time. So instead, we stay busy. We clean the house instead of writing. We check emails instead of learning. We update our to-do lists instead of starting the first task. And here's another reason we stay busy. It helps us avoid failure. Think about it. If you're always busy, always rushing from one thing to the next, then you don't have to face that scary feeling of sitting down with one big, meaningful task. You don't have to risk doing it badly. You don't have to deal with self-doubt. So instead, we keep moving. We keep doing anything, so we don't have to face that fear. But staying busy all the time comes with a price. It wears us down. Our minds get tired. We lose focus. We stop thinking clearly. And most importantly, we stop enjoying what we do. Because when everything feels urgent, nothing feels important. We end up in this constant state of doing, with no time for reflection, creativity, or rest. Let me ask you a question, one that you might want to sit with for a moment. Are you actually getting things done, or just staying busy? Are your daily activities helping you grow, or are they just filling time? These are not easy questions, but asking them can change the way you use your time, your energy, and even your attention. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine someone learning English. They spend all day jumping between different apps, watching 3 videos at the same time, doing a little grammar here, a little vocabulary there, but never really going deep into anything. They stay busy. But are they learning deeply? Probably not. Now imagine another learner who chooses one thing, like writing a short paragraph in English, and gives it full focus for 30 minutes. No distractions, no switching. Just one task. That person is not busy, but they're making real progress. This is the difference between living on the surface of your work and going deeper. One keeps you busy. The other helps you grow. The good news is you don't have to live in this constant rush. You can choose to slow down. You can choose to do less, but do it better. You can create space for deep focus, even in a busy world. But it takes intention. You have to be willing to stop, to question your habits, and to change the way you see productivity. Because productivity isn't about how many things you check off your list. It's about what those things mean. Are they moving you closer to your goals? Are they helping you become the person you want to be? So the next time you catch yourself saying, "I'm so busy," pause. Ask yourself, busy with what? Is it motion or is it progress? The power of focusing on one thing. Let's take a moment to really think about what happens when we focus on just one thing. Not five, not three, just one clear, meaningful task. At first, it can feel strange, even a little uncomfortable. In a world that always tells us to do more, it can feel wrong to slow down and do less. But here's the truth. When we focus deeply on one thing, we often get more done, and we do it better. Some of the most successful people in the world understand this very well. They don't try to do everything at once. Instead, they choose one important thing and give it their full attention. For example, Steve Jobs was famous for saying that focus isn't just about saying yes to what you want, it's also about saying no to what you don't. He believed that doing a few things well was more powerful than trying to do everything. And he wasn't the only one. Writers, scientists, musicians, entrepreneurs, they all know that deep focus is where real progress happens. Now think about your own experience. Have you ever been working on something, maybe writing, studying, or creating, and suddenly time seemed to disappear? You were so focused, so into the task, that you forgot to check your phone. You weren't thinking about anything else. That state is called flow, and it's one of the most powerful mental states we can experience. When you're in flow, your mind feels clear. You're not distracted. You're not doubting yourself. You're just doing. And it feels good, not just because you're being productive, but because you're completely present. You're engaged, you're focused, and you're using your full ability. This is the power of doing one thing with full attention. And here's something really interesting. The more you practice focusing on one thing, the easier it becomes. At first, your brain might resist. You might feel bored or uncomfortable. You might want to check your phone or switch to another task. But if you stay with it, even just for 10 or 15 minutes, you'll notice something start to change. You'll get into a rhythm. You'll feel calmer. And slowly, your brain will learn that this kind of focus is not only possible, it's rewarding. Focus also builds something that multitasking can't: confidence. When you focus deeply and complete something with care, you feel proud. You see progress. And that progress gives you energy. It gives you motivation. It helps you believe in yourself. When you jump between tasks, everything feels half done. But when you focus on one thing, you finish it. And that gives you a sense of achievement. It also brings clarity. When you're always distracted, it's hard to think clearly. Your mind feels noisy and full of thoughts. But when you sit down with one task and block everything else out, you start to see things more simply. You understand better. You solve problems faster. You even become more creative. It's like cleaning a messy room. Suddenly, you can see where everything is. And once you get that focus going, it creates something else: momentum. That means forward movement. One focused task leads to another. When you do one thing well, you want to do the next thing well too. You feel in control of your time and energy. That's how small actions lead to big results. Let me give you a small example from English learning. Imagine you decide to focus only on improving your listening skills this week. You don't jump between grammar books and vocabulary apps. You don't try to do everything. You just focus on listening every day for 20 to 30 minutes. Podcasts, audiobooks, short videos, whatever works for you. After a few days, you start to notice something. You hear words more clearly. You understand faster. You feel more confident when you speak. All that progress came from doing just one thing with focus. It's the same with anything meaningful, whether it's learning a language, building a career, improving your health, or working on a personal project. When you try to do too many things at once, you stay on the surface. But when you slow down and focus, you go deeper. And deeper is where growth happens. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by your to-do list, try this. Stop, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what's the one thing I need to focus on right now? Then give it your full attention, just for a short while. No pressure, no distractions. Just one thing. You might be surprised at how powerful that simple act can be. Real-life setbacks and mental blocks. So far, we've talked about the power of focus and how much you can achieve when you give one thing your full attention. But let's be honest, it's not always that easy, is it? Even when we want to focus, even when we know it's the right thing to do, something inside us can still stop us. And that something isn't always the phone, or social media, or emails. Sometimes, the biggest distractions are happening in our own minds. Let's talk about some of the most common mental blocks that make deep work difficult. Things like perfectionism, self-doubt, and the fear of failure. These are quiet, but powerful. They often stop us before we even begin. Let's start with perfectionism. Have you ever told yourself, I'll start when I'm ready? Or, it has to be perfect, or it's not worth doing. Perfectionism makes us feel like we need to do everything the right way from the beginning. But the problem is, the right way is never clear. So we wait, we plan, we overthink, and in the end, we do nothing. Perfectionism can look like high standards, but it's really just fear in disguise. The fear of making a mistake, the fear of looking stupid, the fear of not being good enough. But here's the truth. Progress is always better than perfection. You can't improve something that doesn't exist. And done is always better than perfect. Now let's talk about self-doubt. That little voice that says, you can't do this. You're not smart enough. Who do you think you are? Almost everyone has this voice inside them, especially when they're doing something new or difficult. Maybe you've felt it when you've tried speaking English out loud or writing in a new language. You want to try, but the doubt creeps in. What if I make a mistake? What if people laugh? What if I fail? I know that feeling very well. Let me share something personal. A few years ago, I wanted to create something just like this podcast, a project that combined language learning with personal growth. I had the idea, I had the notes, and I even started recording. But I didn't publish anything for months. Why? Because I kept thinking it wasn't good enough. I'd record, delete, record again, rewrite the script, change the title, question my voice, my accent, my message. Every time I got close to finishing, self-doubt pulled me back. Looking back now, I realize I wasn't waiting for the perfect version. I was just afraid of failing, afraid of people judging me. But one day, I asked myself a simple question. What's really stopping me from starting? And the answer wasn't technical. It wasn't about time or tools. It was my own fear. That moment was powerful, because once I named it, I could face it. I could take a small step forward, even if I was scared. And that's how the first real version of this podcast was born. Maybe you've had a similar experience. Maybe you want to apply for a job, write a book, start a blog, or speak more confidently in English. But something always holds you back. If that sounds familiar, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what's stopping me from starting? Is it fear of failure? Is it a voice telling you you're not ready? Whatever it is, name it. Bring it into the light. Because once you do that, you can start to move past it. Here's the thing. Setbacks are normal. Everyone who has ever done something meaningful has felt fear, made mistakes, or had moments of doubt. It's part of the process. The difference is, they didn't let those feelings stop them. They started anyway. They learned along the way. And they kept going, one small step at a time. And that's all you need to do. You don't need to feel 100% confident. You don't need everything to be perfect. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to start. Focus on one small action. One thing you can do today. Not next week. Not when you feel more ready. But today. That's how confidence grows. That's how fear starts to shrink. So if you're listening right now, and there's something you've been putting off, something you want to do but haven't started, I want you to ask yourself again, what's really stopping me? And then, once you hear the answer, I want you to gently say, I hear you, but I'm doing it anyway. Because you are capable. You are allowed to begin, even if you're nervous. And the first step, no matter how small, is still a step forward. Strategies for deep work in daily life. Now that we've talked about the value of deep work and the mental blocks that sometimes stop us, it's time to get practical. Let's talk about how to bring deep work into your real daily life. Because yes, the idea of full focus sounds amazing, but between jobs, school, family, and everything else, it can feel hard to know where to start. So in this part of the episode, I'll share some simple, realistic strategies you can use, starting today. First up is something called time blocking. It sounds like a fancy productivity method, but it's really just about planning when you'll do your deep work. You take a part of your day, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and you block it out for one focused task. During that time, you don't check your phone, you don't reply to messages, and you don't switch to other tasks. You choose one activity, maybe writing, studying, or learning English, and you stay with it until the time is up. Time blocking works because it removes guesswork. You're not waiting to feel ready or hoping you'll find a free moment. You decide ahead of time when you'll focus. And the amazing part? Even 25 minutes of deep focus is more powerful than 2 hours of distracted multitasking. You don't need a whole afternoon. You just need a small window of time, protected from interruptions. That brings me to the second strategy, turning off notifications. I know, it sounds obvious, but it really does make a big difference. We live in a world where our phones are constantly buzzing, flashing, or making noise. Even if you don't check them, just seeing a notification is enough to break your focus. So if you want to work deeply, even for a short time, turn your phone on silent, or even better, airplane mode. Close extra browser tabs. Turn off message pop-ups on your laptop. Create a space, even for just 20 to 30 minutes, where your mind doesn't have to react to anything. Another powerful tip is to choose one priority per day. Not 10 things, just one. Of course, you'll still have other tasks to do, but this one thing becomes your focus point. Ask yourself, if I could only finish one thing today, what would it be? That one thing should be something meaningful, something that moves you forward, helps you grow, or solves a real problem. When you finish it, you'll feel progress, and that feeling builds motivation to keep going. Let me give you a quick example. Let's say you're learning English, and your one priority today is to write a short email or paragraph in English. That's it. You're not trying to do grammar, listening, reading, and vocabulary all at once. You focus on writing, and you give it 30 minutes of your full attention. You think carefully. You choose your words. You check your grammar after, maybe with help, And when you're done, you feel that quiet sense of satisfaction. That's the power of a single, clear priority. Now, here's another small strategy that works for many people. Use a timer. There's something called the Pomodoro technique. You set a timer for 25 minutes, focus fully during that time, and then take a 5-minute break. It sounds simple, but it helps train your brain to work in focused sprints. Over time, your ability to focus gets stronger, just like a muscle. Another helpful habit is to protect your focus time like an appointment. Imagine you have a deep work session at 9 a.m. Would you cancel it just because someone sent you a message? Probably not. Treat your focused time like it's important. Because it is. And here's a bonus tip. Tell people around you when you're focusing. If you live with family or roommates, let them know. I'm doing focused work from 10 to 11. Please don't disturb me. You might be surprised how respectful people are when you explain your goals clearly. And finally, be kind to yourself. Deep work is not about being perfect. You will get distracted sometimes. You might miss a day. You might feel tired. That's okay. What matters is consistency, not perfection. Even one deep work session a day, just one, can create amazing results over time. The key is to build the habit slowly, without pressure, and to celebrate the small wins. So, to sum it up, block time for deep focus. Turn off notifications. Choose one clear priority. Use a timer or work in short sprints. Protect your focus like it matters. And be kind to yourself along the way. Try one of these this week. Just one. See how it feels to give your full attention to a single task. Notice the difference in your energy, your clarity, and your confidence. You don't need a perfect system. You just need a simple plan and the willingness to try. Language learning as deep work. Let's bring everything we've talked about back to you, the listener. If you're here with me now, I know one of your goals is to improve your English. That's why you follow Code Your English and why you're listening to this episode. So now I want to ask you something important. What if you treated language learning as deep work? What if you gave it the same level of focus, attention, and care as you would give to something really meaningful? Like writing a book, building a business, or creating art? Too often, we treat language learning like background noise. We jump from app to app. We watch a video, listen to a podcast, open a vocabulary list, maybe check a grammar rule, and then scroll through social media. It feels like we're learning a lot, but most of the time, we're only half-focused. We're multitasking. We're not really absorbing anything deeply. But English isn't something you can just download into your brain. It's a skill. And like any skill, it takes time, focus, and consistency. You don't need to study all day. You don't need 10 apps. You don't need to watch every English video online. What you do need is intention. You need to choose one thing, just one, and give it your full attention. Let's say you're listening to this podcast. That's already a great start. But now, imagine if you paused after this episode and wrote down 3 new phrases you heard. Then, you used them in your own sentence. Maybe you spoke them out loud or recorded yourself. Just that small, focused activity could help you remember and use the language in a deeper way. That's what deep work looks like in language learning. Not just hearing words, but working with them. Another example. Let's say you're reading a short article in English. You could read it quickly, while also checking your phone or thinking about something else. Or you could read it slowly, look up a few key words, take notes, and maybe even explain it to someone else. The second way takes more effort, yes, but it also gives you real results. This is where consistency matters more than speed. If you gave just 30 minutes a day to one focused English activity, listening, reading, writing, or speaking, you would make more progress in 1 month than someone who jumps between 10 tools every day with no real focus. It's not about doing more, it's about doing less, more deeply. So here's the question I want to leave you with. What if you gave your full attention to one thing today? Just one. One podcast, one writing task, one conversation in English. No distractions, no switching, just focused, deep learning. What could change for you? You don't need to rush, you don't need to be perfect. But if you can bring deep focus into your English learning, just a little each day, you'll be amazed at how much progress you can make. Not just in your vocabulary or grammar, but in your confidence, your clarity, and your ability to express yourself in real, meaningful ways. Choose focus, not overwhelm. We've reached the end of today's episode, and I want to leave you with a gentle reminder. In the busy, noisy world we live in, choosing focus is a powerful act. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, with so many tasks, messages, and ideas pulling us in every direction. But the secret to real progress isn't doing everything at once. It's about choosing one thing, just one, and giving it your full attention. When we look at our daily lives, it's tempting to believe that multitasking is the way to get more done. Maybe you've thought, if I check my messages while I work, I'll save time. Or, I'll listen to an English podcast while scrolling through social media. But deep down, you probably notice how this often leaves you feeling scattered or stressed, and the work isn't your best. That's because multitasking is an illusion. It divides your brain and drains your energy, instead of helping you move forward. Instead, focusing deeply on one task at a time lets your mind do what it does best: understand, create, and learn. When you really concentrate, you build momentum, confidence, and clarity. Your work becomes clearer, your learning becomes stronger, and even your motivation grows. You feel the difference because you are fully present in what you are doing. We also talked about mental blocks that stop us, like perfectionism, self-doubt, and fear of failure. These feelings are very common, but they don't have to control you. Sometimes, the hardest step is just to begin, even if you feel unsure or afraid. Remember, progress is better than perfection. Every small action counts. And finally, practical steps can help you build focus in your everyday life. Things like planning your time with blocks, turning off distracting notifications, and choosing one clear priority per day make a huge difference. They help protect your attention and give your brain space to do deep work. These simple habits create a foundation for lasting change. So now, I invite you to pause and think quietly for a moment. What is one thing you can focus on today? It might be something small, like writing a few sentences in English, reading an article, or practicing speaking out loud. It doesn't have to be perfect or long. The goal is to give it your full attention, without rushing or switching tasks. Notice how that feels. Notice the calm and the sense of accomplishment that comes with truly focusing. Focus is not about being perfect or doing everything at once. It's about being kind to yourself, setting clear priorities, and trusting that small, consistent steps will take you where you want to go. You don't have to do it all today, or even this week. But you can choose to give your best to one thing, and that choice will grow into confidence, skill, and real progress. Thank you for spending this time with me on Code Your English. I hope you found something useful today, and I hope you feel inspired to try deep work in your own life and language learning journey. Remember, focus is a practice. It takes patience, kindness, and courage. So be gentle with yourself and keep choosing focus over overwhelm. Until next time, take care, keep learning, and remember, one thing at a time with your full attention can change everything.